Good evening, everyone at Tushita and online. Welcome to this Vajrasattva purification practice, Vajrasattva purification meditation. So let us take a moment to arrive here at Tushita on the cushion, and at home to arrive in front of your device, on your chair or on your cushion. So we can do that by taking 3 deep breaths. And every time we inhale, we try to refresh our attention. Every time we exhale, we try to relax. Now the next thing we will do is that we will engage in a short meditation of shamatha. Shamatha is the Sanskrit for calm abiding. In Tibetan it's called shine. And more specifically what we will do is a single-pointed meditation. So for that there are 4 instructions. The first one is the body posture. So the best is to sit on the floor, but if you're at home sitting on a chair, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure you're not leaning against the support of the chair and not leaning forward either. If you're sitting on the floor, the ideal best is to sit in the full lotus posture. So this is basically with one foot, like each foot on top of the other leg. That might be a little bit difficult. So make sure you're not pushing. If it's not comfortable, make sure you're not pushing your body. You can simply sit cross-legged or in half lotus with just one foot on top of the leg, or even Burmese style with one leg in front of the other. Make sure you're not pushing yourself because you want to remain in that position without moving for a few minutes, so make sure you're comfortable. The hands, traditionally we put them in the concentration or meditation mudra, so you have your right hand on top of the left, the 2 thumbs are slightly touching, and this mudra rests on your lap. Make sure there's enough space between your body and your arms so that the body can breathe. It's so hot. And the next thing is that it's actually the most important instruction for the posture is for the body to be upright, for the back to be straight. You can imagine that there is a string pulling from the crown of your head, keeping your back straight. But at the same time, we are relaxed, so the shoulders are even and relaxed. You can take the shoulders down. The neck is aligned in the continuation of the spine. We can very slightly tilt the head forward, but not too much. A tip of the ancient masters is to place your tongue behind your upper teeth towards your upper palate. This helps reduce the production of saliva while you meditate. And finally, we don't meditate with the eyes completely closed. We leave them slightly opened, gazing 1 or 2 meters in the space in front of us, about 45 degrees cast down. But we don't actually pay attention to what our eyes are seeing. It is the mental consciousness that meditates. So there are 2 ways this helps. The first one is that many people have a tendency during meditation to fall into dullness or laxity, kind of fall asleep. So this allows for a little bit of light to enter, keeping us alert. The second reason why we don't completely close the eyes is because if we familiarize ourselves meditating with eyes closed, then in the future, difficulty with eyes open becomes very difficult. But if from the beginning we familiarize ourselves meditating with the eyes slightly opened, in the future we can choose. When it's required, we can meditate with eyes open. And when we prefer, for example, when we do some visualizations, then we can close the eyes. So this posture is actually known as Buddha Vairochana, meditation posture. It has 7 points, and the most important of these 7 points is for the body to be upright, for the back to be straight. So now when it comes to shamatha meditation, the second instruction is the object of meditation. What are we actually meditating on? So if you're familiar with shamatha, I would suggest that you keep the object of meditation you're the most familiar with. And if you're not familiar with this meditation, what I would suggest is to use the breathing sensation at the entrance of the nostrils. Try to place all your attention on the breathing sensation at the entrance of the nostrils. Maybe feeling as you breathe in it's a little bit cooler, as you breathe out a little bit warmer. And try to remain there on this sensation. The third instruction is that we tend to get distracted when we meditate. And there are, somebody's saying can't hear. Can you hear me? Tara Chavi Radhika. Neil is saying he cannot hear. Okay, now you can hear, all right. So as I was saying, the third instruction is that there are 2 ways we get distracted when we meditate. The first one is called mental excitement. Basically, we are distracted with thoughts, mostly thinking about past, future. We might think about our dinner tonight, or we might think about a meeting that we had this afternoon. So then we lose our object of meditation. The mind has wandered, the mind has lost the object of meditation. The second way we get distracted is called mental laxity or dullness or lethargy. Basically, we don't put enough application in our meditation and the mind starts to sink. We kind of fall asleep. So we also lose our object of meditation. So finally, the fourth instruction is that there are 2 antidotes that we need to use to counteract these distractions. These 2 antidotes are called alertness or introspection, and the second one is called mindfulness. Alertness is basically like a security camera in the background of your mind that is checking, what is my mind doing? Am I meditating? Am I concentrated on my object? Or has the mind wandered in distraction? The second antidote is called mindfulness. And the role of mindfulness is that when we notice that we get distracted, we bring the mind back onto the object of meditation and we try to remain on the object of meditation. So an analogy that I like to use is that it's a little bit similar if you have a pet dog at home and the dog runs away. Alertness notices that the dog is gone. Mindfulness brings the dog back home, and you can also imagine tying him against a pillar so that the dog remains at home. So it's a little bit similar to what we are doing with our mind. So we will try this for about 5 minutes and make sure you are using the antidotes, trying to remain focused on your object of meditation. Now that our minds are hopefully a little bit more concentrated, we'll try to generate a good motivation for this puja, for this meditation, for this Vajrasattva practice. So we'll try to generate a Mahayana motivation. Maha actually in Sanskrit means great, and yana means vehicle. So now what makes this vehicle great is actually the motivation that we have, the intention that we have. Actually, even to enter the Mahayana, to enter the great vehicle, we need bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the Sanskrit term for bodhi means awakening, and citta is mind. So the mind of awakening, bodhicitta. Basically, bodhicitta is the wish, the aspiration to achieve full awakening in order to benefit sentient beings. Now, what does that mean? Sentient beings, what we mean by sentient beings, in Tibetan it's called Sem-chen. Sem is mind and Chen is possessor. So basically, we want to help mind possessors. So mind possessors includes human beings, animals, and also the Buddha teaches that it also includes beings that we cannot see maybe with our own eyes. For example, people who recently passed away and who are, in an intermediate state between two lives. We also talk about pretas, suras, and asuras, for example. So basically, sentient beings includes countless mind possessors. And why do we want to help them? It's because we recognize that all of them, including ourselves, since time immemorial, since beginningless time, we have been trapped in the prison of our own mind. In Sanskrit, it is called samsara. You might have heard that word. Samsara means the cyclic existence. Basically, we are continuously taking rebirth again and again without any control since time immemorial, since beginningless lives. This is due to karma and afflictions. Basically, what happens is that we apprehend all things, including ourselves, as existing truly, solidly from their own side. We apprehend phenomena as existing inherently, objectively, independently from the mind. Because of that, we have the impression that we are the center of the universe. We feel like we are the hero of our own movie, and we feel more important than others. Because of that, all sorts of afflictions, delusions, disturbing emotions arise, such as anger, excessive desire, jealousy, pride, anxiety, sadness, depression, and so on and so forth, you name it. The Buddha actually, 2,500 years ago, the Buddha taught for several decades, and it is said that he taught about 84,000 afflictions. And this is not an exhaustive list. There are countless afflictions we can imagine. So because of these afflictions, we are constantly engaging in actions motivated by these afflictions. Sometimes these actions are negative. We are engaging in non-virtuous actions such as killing, stealing, lying, for example. Sometimes we engage in positive actions such as helping others, practicing generosity, and so on and so forth. But basically, as long as we have this innate ignorance, this impression we have that all phenomena exist solidly, intrinsically, inherently from their own side, as long as we have that, all these actions that we engage in are contaminated by that, and they will result in pleasant or unpleasant experiences within cyclic existence. So this is basically meaning that everything we experience, for example, all of us here at the moment, we are under the fan, we have the cooling from the AC. So it's quite a pleasant feeling compared to the heat outside. No? So the Buddha teaches us that this is the result of a positive action we have done in the past. Now, the negative karmas we create, such as killing, stealing, lying, and so forth, they result in unpleasant experiences. Experiences of suffering. And at the time of death, depending on our mental state, what is going on in our mind when we die, one of the countless karmas we have accumulated in countless past lives will ripen and propel us into the next life. So we don't have control over the experiences that we make. Here, all of a sudden, the AC might stop working, for example. We don't have much control about that. At the time of death, suddenly we might be afraid, feel very attached to the body. So most likely a negative karma will ripen at that time and propel us into a rebirth that is not very fortunate. So this lack of freedom is precisely what samsara is. So let us try to generate a sense of compassion for ourselves and all sentient beings who are trapped in this, they are conditioned by this self-grasping ignorance, constantly engaging, accumulating karmas and experiencing the results of their karmas without choice, without control. Let us try to generate a sense of compassion, wishing them to be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, wishing them to be free from karma and afflictions. At the moment we are born as humans, and perhaps our pleasant and unpleasant experiences are quite balanced. But with our own eyes, we can see that countless beings are experiencing acute suffering. We can see with our own eyes people who are suffering from poverty. At the moment in Delhi, it's like about 46 degrees centigrade. We can think of all the poor people, who are basically living outside in this heat. So we can try to generate a sense of compassion for them. We can also see around us many people who are suffering from sickness. We can also relate somehow to people who live in countries that are currently at war, in the Middle East, in Ukraine, and so forth. We can also see the suffering of animals. Sometimes, to help generate compassion, it helps to turn on National Geographic channel or any channel about wildlife, because we can really see that animals in the wild They are never really at peace. They are living in a constant fear of being hunted by other animals. Even when they are sleeping, they are not completely at ease. There is always a corner of their eye checking, for predators. You can also relate to, for example, the chickens, that are raised for the KFCs, for example, how thousands of them are living in very tiny places. I've heard that even their beaks, are cut so that they don't kill each other. And they're just spending their time waiting to be sent to the slaughterhouse. So these are just examples for us to, try to generate a sense of compassion. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. And let us try to expand that compassion even further. Let us try to give rise to the altruistic intention, which is basically recognizing that at the moment we have this incredible opportunity, because we have this human life that is qualified with so many freedoms and endowments. We have all our physical, mental capacities. And most importantly, we live in a world where the Buddha has appeared 2,500 years ago. And the Buddha taught for several decades the methods to transform our minds, to free ourselves from karma and afflictions. Not only that, but the teachings of the Buddha are still very much available to this day, especially in this digital era. With just one click, we can read the teachings of the Buddha. We can listen very qualified masters, such as His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is tirelessly trying to help us. Not only that, but there are many followers of the Buddha's teachings. We have a community, we have people who can help us understand our mind, who can support us in our practice. Not only that, but there are many benefactors, many people who are supporting Dharma centers such as Tushita by practicing generosity, allowing so many Dharma centers around the world to exist and help others. So with all these conditions, we have an extraordinary chance, which is very rare, to look inwards, to look at our minds, to recognize our disturbing emotions, our afflictions, our delusions. Apply antidotes to counteract them, and eventually eliminate them altogether from the root. So how do we do that? By listening to the teachings of the Buddha, by reflecting on them, and by meditating on them. So with these conditions, we can try to generate a sense of responsibility. At present, I have this fortune, I have this opportunity. Countless sentient beings don't. We can see on this planet about 8 billion, I think, human beings. How many are interested to look inwards? How many are interested to meditate? How many are interested to listen what the Buddha taught? You can see here even in Delhi, I think Delhi NCR is about 30 million people. And how many are we in this room tonight and online? So we can try to generate a sense of responsibility for others who are just swimming in the endless ocean of samsara since beginningless time. let us try to generate this altruistic intention. I myself will free all sentient beings from suffering and the causes of suffering, karma and the afflictions. But how can I do that? I myself am deluded. I'm subject to karma. I myself am trapped in samsara. So first, I must become fully awakened. I must get rid of all the afflictions. I must purify my karma. And I must even eliminate the further mental veils, which are called the cognitive obscurations. These afflictions and the cognitive obscurations are what separate us from achieving full awakening, from achieving Buddhahood. Let us try to give rise to this most beautiful mind of bodhicitta, the mind of awakening, by thinking, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all sentient beings. And with this motivation in mind, we will engage in the Vajrasattva meditation, Vajrasattva purification meditation tonight. Give me just a second, I'm trying to share my screen online. Can you see my screen, or is it like a black screen? Could you let me know in the chat, please? I think it works, right? Okay, great. I think you all can see the Vajrasattva practice on the screen, and here at Tushita we have it in a printed format. It's called the Vajrasattva meditation recitation. A short Vajrasattva meditation is called. Purification with the 4 opponent powers. So basically Vajrasattva is a practice that is done in all the schools of Tibetan Buddhism, essentially to purify our minds from the negative karmas we have accumulated in the past. And this helps us in so many ways. It helps us to understand the teachings. I remember when I first heard about the Buddha's teachings, and the teacher was talking about the wisdom of emptiness. And my eyes were completely empty, like I would not understand anything he was talking about. So this kind of purification practices really help, to purify all the negative karmas and the mental pollution that we have, to understand better. But also it helps us in our daily lives, not to experience the results of the negative karmas we have accumulated in the past. So usually it is practiced as a preliminary practice. The tantric practitioners, they want to sit in meditation, you might have heard, for 3 years, 3 months and 3 days. So before doing that, actually, they sit for several months or years even to engage in such practices. Vajrasattva is one of the 8 preliminary practices. So basically, practitioners, they accumulate 100,000 Vajrasattva mantras. So for Tibetans, it might take a month. For modern people, generally, it's done in 3 months. And it is said that when we recite 100,000 mantras with doing the 4 opponent powers, it has the capacity to actually purify all the negative karmas we have accumulated in the past, without exception. But even in one session, if we do it so well, with perfect concentration, visualizing perfectly, meditating properly, then we can also eradicate so much negative karma. So it's very precious practice. And Vajrasattva, here at Tushita, we have a photo of him. So we'll try to visualize him during our meditation. So you get an idea with the photo here, just behind the 3 candles. So you get an idea how he looks like. So basically it's the Buddha taking this aspect, the white to symbolize the purification. So we can turn to page number 5, I think. And we start with a visualization. So try to visualize as best as you can. You might think that it is difficult to visualize, but if I actually ask you to close your eyes and to visualize a pizza or rice and dal, very easily, it comes to our mind, because we are so familiar with these objects. So of course we are much less familiar with the Buddha or with Vajrasattva, so it requires a little bit more effort, but it is possible. So even if you cannot visualize all the details, if you cannot visualize perfectly, very clearly, at least, try to generate some conviction that the objects you are trying to visualize are there. So first, visualize seated on your right side is your father, or the male figure, that took care of you, a caregiver when you were a kid. On your left side is your mother, or the female caregiver who took care of you. Your enemies and the sentient beings who disturb you are seated in front of you. Your friends and those to whom you are attached are seated behind you. All other sentient beings in human form surround you. So basically we are trying to visualize all sentient beings around us, and we are going to lead them into this prayer that we are going to recite. In the space in front of you, visualize the objects of refuge. So there are 2 ways of doing this. The first one is called the one into many. So basically we are visualizing Buddha Shakyamuni in the center. Here at Tushita we have several statues of Buddha Shakyamuni under His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and just above Vajrasattva, this is also Buddha Shakyamuni, and I think behind me as well. So we are trying to visualize him in the center and all other Buddhas around him. There is the wisdom lineage represented by Arya Manjushri on the right side, and then the method lineage represented by Arya Maitreya, who is the main statue here, on the other side. And then they are surrounded by all the lineage Buddhas. And this visualization is a little bit difficult actually if you do it well. What you see is the frame we have there on the pillar with so many different Buddhas. So this is actually a little bit difficult to visualize for beginners. So you can do the other visualization that is called here the many into one, the simple visualization. So that is visualizing all Buddhas, Dharma and Sangha in the one aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni. So we only visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, and he includes all the other Buddhas. So now we'll recite this verse, thinking that we are taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, leading all sentient beings. Basically, we are like the chant leader for all of them. So we'll recite one time in English, and then we'll chant twice in Tibetan. I take refuge until I'm enlightened in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my merits of generosity and so forth, may I become a Buddha to benefit transmigratory beings. Sangye chodan soki chonam la jonjo bado dagne kyapso chi dagi jinso gipe tsoknam ki jola penjir sangye jubara esho. Sangye chodan soki chonam la jonjo bado dagne kyapso chi dagi jinso gipe tsoknam ki jola penjir sangye jubara esho. So, this practice of Vajrasattva includes the 4 opponent powers. So basically, when we engage in negative karmas, we have different things happening. First we have the intention. For example, if we want to, steal something, let's say, we have the intention to steal. Then there is the affliction, that is present in the mind at that time. Probably like covetousness, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that word properly. Covetousness, like the wish to appropriate something. Then there is the action of actually stealing. And then there is the completion when the person to whom the object belonged is separated from its object and we own it. So similarly, to purify our karmas, we are engaging in the 4 opponent powers. The first one is actually the one we just did now, is the power of reliance or the power of refuge. Basically, we are turning to the Buddha, we are turning to the enlightened activities of Vajrasattva, Buddha Vajrasattva, to help us. The second power is called the power of regret. Regret is basically the wish not to experience the karmic result of the action we have accumulated. So for example, in the case of stealing, the karmic consequences of stealing is that in the future, somebody will steal from us. It will be difficult to keep our possessions and so forth. So we don't want to experience that. We don't want to be, people to steal things from us. So that is the power of regret. It is a healthy sense of regret. I don't want to experience the suffering results of the negative karmas I've accumulated in the past. It has nothing to do with guilt, Guilt doesn't serve any purpose. Then we have the third power, is called the power of the antidote, or the power of remedy. And in the context of this practice, it is the mantra recitation together with the visualization that we will engage in. And then the fourth power that we will do after the mantra recitation is called the power of restraint. Basically, we are making a pledge, we are making a commitment that in the future we'll try our best, not to engage in actions of stealing, killing, lying, and so forth, to whatever capacity we can, Would you like to take a cushion and maybe a text so you can join us? I think Apurva will help you. So now let us try to generate the power of regret. So for that, let us bring to mind the definition of negative karma. A negative karma is any action that results in suffering. Generally, this is an action motivated by ignorance, attachment, or anger. Almost every action I do, 24 hours a day, is motivated by worldly concern, attached to the happiness of this life. It has been like that from beginningless samsaric rebirth, and it is like this from birth to death in this life. Nearly every action I have created has been non-virtuous, the cause of suffering. Not only that, but I have also continuously been breaking my pratimoksha, bodhisattva, and tantric vows. First of all, I have created the heaviest of negative karmas in relation to my virtuous friends by harming their bodies, disobeying their advice, disturbing their minds, having non-devotional thoughts, and giving rise to heresy and anger. Having all these negative imprints on my mental continuum is unbearable. It's as if I have swallowed a lethal poison. Therefore, I must purify all these negative karmas immediately with the antidote of the four powers. So in this way, try to generate a strong feeling of regret, together with the awareness of the need to urgently purify your negative karmas. Many people my age or younger have died. It is a miracle that I am still alive and have this incredible opportunity to purify my negative karmas. Death is certain, but the time of death is totally uncertain. If I were to die right now, I would definitely be born in the lower realms. Because I could not practice Dharma there, I would remain in the lower realms for countless eons. Therefore, how unbelievably fortunate I am to be able to purify my negative karmas right now, without even a second's delay, by practicing the Vajrasattva meditation. But I am not practicing this Vajrasattva purification for myself alone. The purpose of my life is to free all hell beings, hungry ghosts, animals, human beings, asuras, suras, and intermediate state beings from all their suffering and its causes, and lead them to the peerless happiness of enlightenment. In order to do this, I must first reach enlightenment myself. Therefore, I must purify all my negative karmas immediately by practicing this Vajrasattva meditation. So, we will try to visualize Vajrasattva above the crown of our heads. So for us here at Tushita, we can, look at the image of Vajrasattva that we have here, just behind the 3 candles, and try to imagine him above the crown of our head, about 6 inches tall, and his body made of light, like white, radiating light, like his body is hollow. Above the crown of my head, seated upon a lotus and moon, is seated Vajrasattva. His holy body is white. He has 1 face and 2 arms. In his right hand, he holds a Vajra, and in his left hand, he holds a bell. He is adorned with 6 mudras, and he is sitting in a Vajra posture. Think that Vajrasattva is my root guru, my main teacher, the holy mind of all the Buddhas, the Dharmakaya. Out of unbearable compassion encompassing me and all other mother sentient beings, he appears in this form to purify me and all sentient beings. And we'll actually engage in the power of remedy on page 8. Now, in the center, at the heart of Vajrasattva that you visualize above the crown of your head, in the center of his heart is a syllable hum that is encircled by a garland of the 100-syllable mantra that we are going to recite. From this mantra garland, a powerful stream of white nectar flows down and enters the crown of my head, filling my entire body. And this purifies all my negative karmas, obscurations, sicknesses, spirit harms, all completely purified by this nectar. So there are 3, main ways we can visualize. So the nectar, we can imagine that it fills our entire body and it pushes down our negative karmas and negativities, and they leave through the lower openings of the body and enter the earth. So we can visualize these negativities leaving our body in the form of scorpions, for example, black snakes, or black smoke. This is actually the most common visualization. Another way is, imagining that the body entirely gets filled with this nectar, and the nectar, even overflows above the crown of our head. And another way is just imagining like when we turn on a light, immediately it removes all the darkness. So similarly, the nectar enters the crown of our head, like pushing the button, our body becomes completely filled with light instantaneously. So we'll engage in the recitation of the mantra for a little while. The mantra is in Sanskrit, so maybe before we recite it, I'll just read, the meaning of the mantra. So basically it says, "You, Vajrasattva, have generated the holy mind of bodhicitta according to your samaya, according to your pledges. Your holy mind is enriched with the simultaneously born holy action of liberating transmigratory beings from samsara. Whatever happiness and suffering, good and bad, happens to me, by my pleasing the holy mind, never give up on me and guide me. Please stabilize the realizations of the path and the grounds, the bhumis, including the happiness of the upper realms. Actualize all actions and the common and sublime realizations, and make the glory of the five wisdoms abide in my heart." So this is in short the meaning of the mantra that we will recite in Sanskrit. So especially if this is the first time you see this mantra, it might, you need to, while we recite it, you need to read it, obviously. So try as much as you can, as you read it, to also visualize, Vajrasattva above the crown of your head and the purifying nectar coming from the mantra garland at his heart, filling your body. And if it is very difficult for you to read the 100-syllable mantra, you can simply recite a short mantra, which is just below. That is just Om Vajrasattva Hum, and then you can, focus on the visualization more, perhaps. So we'll recite the mantra once together, and then we'll recite it at our own pace, because we all have different speeds. So we'll recite it in silence, basically. And we'll do that for about maybe 10-15 minutes. And then at the end, I'll recite the mantra out loud again, and then we'll continue with the rest of the practice. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Tveno Padita Drido Me Bhava Sutochayo Me Bhava Supochayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhim Me Prayacha Sarva Karma Suchame Chidam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tatha Gata Vaja Mame Muncha Vaja Bhava Maha Samaya Sattva Ahom Be. Om Vajrasattva Samaya Manupalaya Vajrasattva Dveno Dita Drido Me Bhava Sutoshayo Me Bhava Suposhayo Me Bhava Anurakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayacha Sarva Karma Sucha Me Chitam Shriyam Kuruhum Ha 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 Ho Bhagavan Sarva Tata Gata Vajramame Muncha Vajra Bhava Maha Samaya Sadva Ahom Bim. Then we can read towards the bottom of page 8. Through ignorance and delusion, I have broken and deteriorated my commitments. Guru, be my savior and refuge. Lord, holder of the Vajra, endowed with great compassion. In you, the foremost of beings, I take refuge. And then finally we apply the fourth opponent power, which is the power of restraint. Making a commitment, a pledge to refrain from creating negative actions again. So we can read together. Before Guru Vajrasattva, I vow never again to commit those negative actions from which I can easily abstain. I vow not to commit those actions from which I find it difficult to abstain for. So you can make a pledge mentally to Vajrasattva that, for example, one thing that is easy to abstain from, let's say, is killing human beings. That's very easy, right? So we are not going around killing other humans. So we can make a pledge that for the rest of our lives, for example, we are not going to kill a human being. This is just one example. We can also, pledge that we are not going to steal and do things like this. And things that are more difficult. For example, shouting at your partner or, then we can commit that. Let's say you are not going to see your partner for 1 hour now, so you can commit that for 1 hour you're not going to shout at your partner. These are just examples. So you can make your own individual pledges. Then, think that from the crown of your head, Guru Vajrasattva says, child of the lineage, your negative karmas, obscurations, and broken and degenerated samayas have been completely purified. So try to generate a strong faith, a strong conviction that everything has been completely purified, just as Guru Vajrasattva has said. So Lama Zopa Rinpoche used to explain that this is a critical part of the practice, This conviction after applying the four opponent powers, that all our negative karmas is gone, eliminated. Try to imagine that. Completely free from negative karmas. And see how much lighter you feel. Then we visualize that above the crown of our head, Guru Vajrasattva is extremely pleased with our pledge, with our promise. He melts into light and absorbs into us. So you can imagine it dissolves into beautiful white light, and this light enters through the crown of your head. Your body, speech and mind become inseparably one with Guru Vajrasattva's holy body, speech and mind. So try to imagine this, that not only your negative karmas have been purified, but also your body, speech and mind has been transformed into the body, speech and mind of a Buddha with perfect compassion, perfect love, perfect knowledge, perfect wisdom, perfect power of a Buddha. And then let us meditate on emptiness. Emptiness is short for emptiness of objective existence, emptiness of inherent existence, emptiness of independent existence. So let us meditate that in emptiness there is no I, the creator of negative karma. There is no action of creating negative karma. And there is no negative karma created. Place your mind in that emptiness for a little while. In this way, look at yourself and all phenomena as empty. They do not exist from their own side. And then with this awareness of emptiness, let us dedicate the merits that we have accumulated by engaging in this practice. So, in the beginning, we did the motivation of bodhicitta. Then we did the action of engaging in the practice. And now at the end, we dedicate. One of my teachers used to call this going mad, MAD, motivation, action, dedication. So, why are we dedicating? It's basically because it is said that one moment of anger alone can, destroy the positive action, like the merits we have, the positive potential we have accumulated by engaging in virtuous actions. So it is a little bit like saving these positive actions in the bank. Like when we have cash, putting it in the bank, then if a robber comes, he cannot take it away from us. So similarly, when we dedicate properly the merits that we accumulate towards full awakening, towards Buddhahood, then anger, cannot influence that, cannot eliminate that. So at the bottom of page 9, we'll read one time in English, and then we can also chant in Tibetan. May the precious supreme bodhicitta, not yet born, arise. May that arisen not decline, but increase more and more. Join Joseph Jorim Boche, Ma Keba Nam Kye Gyorochi, Keba Nyamba Me Pai, Gone Gondo Ebe Warasho. And then on the next page, we'll recite the long life prayer for His Holiness the Dalai Lama, so dedicating our merits, so that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, basically requesting him to live long and healthy, so that he may continue, to guide us, teach us the Dharma of the Buddha. Incomparably kind and supreme Tenzin Gyatso, the wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world. May you have a long life and all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Jintem kandir bende malupa ganle joe sampel yijino kadrin sume tenzing yazoijo koche tenche toje lundroshu. Then we can read at the bottom of the page, to seal the merits with emptiness. Due to all the past, present, and future merits collected by me, the numberless Buddhas and the numberless sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may I, who am completely empty of existing from my own side, achieve the state of Vajrasattva, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, and lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state of Vajrasattva, which is completely empty of existing from its own side. By myself alone, I'm completely empty of existing from my own side. And then the next two verses, we'll read them together, once in English and then chant them together in Tibetan. I fully dedicate all these virtues to be able to train just like the hero Manjushri, who knows reality, and just like Samantha Bajra as well. I fully dedicate all my roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the all gone beyond victorious ones of the three times, in order to have good conduct. Jambe bawe jita kempa dan kundu zambo de yan de jin de da kungi jeso da loji gewa de da edam che rap tu ngo de som shebe gewa tam che ki ngo wa gong la cho tu nga pa de da gi gewe sa wa de ki kyan zambo je je rap tu ngo. Then we'll turn to the prayers for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. So, Lama Zopa Rinpoche is the Tibetan Lama who co-founded Tushita with Lama Yeshe. Tushita and the whole of FPMT, the Foundation for the Preservation of the Mahayana Tradition, which comprises about 130 centers, projects, and charitable services around the world. So Tushita is one of them. And so Rinpoche actually, took the aspect of passing away last year, and you might be aware that in the Tibetan culture it is a tradition to look for the reincarnation of such enlightened masters. For example, the Dalai Lama is known as the 14th Dalai Lama, the 14th reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. So similarly, we are praying for our founder and spiritual director to quickly come back, in a fresh body, to continue to guide us and to lead the organization. So we can turn to the first one that is actually composed by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the first prayer. And we'll read it in English. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyekya Buddhas, victorious law song father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now. Holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable, venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for modern living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in glory for fortunate disciples. So then we can turn to the next one, the next prayer that is composed by Jado Rinpoche. Jado Rinpoche, you might have seen him when His Holiness used to give the Kalachakra empowerments. He was always, the main person, the tantric expert, the Kalachakra expert. And now that actually His Holiness is not giving the Kalachakra empowerments anymore, Jado Rinpoche is giving them. I think he's soon giving them in Mongolia and next year in Australia. So he composed this prayer for the swift return of Rinpoche. Patient in bearing the hardships of spreading the teachings of the Muni in general and the teachings of the victorious Jamong Tsongkhapa in hundreds of directions, Lord of Dharma holding the three vows and wearing saffron robes, please quickly return as the glory of the peerless teachings. You held the teachings of explanation and practice with great asceticism, unable to bear that transmigratory beings are confused by the darkness of suffering. Through your great loving kindness, you skillfully led them to happiness. Unparalleled Son of the teachings, please return quickly. Beautified by the ornament of supreme patience in increasing the practice of the supreme authentic teachings of the victorious one through listening, reflection, and meditation, guide of all transmigratory beings along the perfect path, true and perfect pure Guru, please return quickly. And then we'll turn to the third one, which is composed by Khandro Tserengma Rinpoche, widely known as Kadrola. So you might also have heard about her because she's one of the oracles of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. But most importantly, she's a great teacher, and she was a close friend of Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And so when she heard the news last year that Lama Zopa Rinpoche had entered his final meditation, she was in Dharamshala and she flew to Kathmandu, where Rinpoche was. And in the plane, these words spontaneously came to her, so she wrote them down for us to recite. Guru, think of me. Guru, consider me. Most gracious root Guru, care for me. Most gracious root Guru, do not deprive us of your compassionate refuge. Listen and consider this heartfelt prayer made by a tormented disciple. Guru, embodiment of the Buddhas of the three times, please bless me. You may rest in all-pervading great bliss, equipoised within the dhatu of impeded luminosity. Yet the playful dance of your loving compassion emanates in myriad ways. The time has come for the return of the swift appearance of your magical wisdom, the Rupakaya, and for you to care for us once again with your affectionate compassion. Arise, arise, arise from the Dharmakaya. I invoke you, I call upon you, I implore you on behalf of all beings. Do not rest in Kechara or other pure realms. Rather, to benefit the Buddha's teachings and all living beings, swiftly return to this southern continent to spread the Buddha Dharma of study and realization. Quickly return to guide us poor, wretched beings. Such is the spread cry of us, your disciples. Return so that we may actually behold your presence and receive the blessings of your body, speech, and mind. All violations, errors, mistakes, and broken samaya that we have made in relation to your body, speech, and mind and spontaneous activity, through our being confused and conceiving things in erroneous ways, we confess within the luminous emptiness of your three kayas. Of everything auspicious, the supreme auspiciousness. May there be the auspiciousness of emptiness and compassion. May there be the auspiciousness of a timely meeting between master and disciples. Through the force of the truth of unchanging suchness, may the unmistaken incarnation return quickly. This lament was made by me, Hadakini, with pure faith and samaya, her eyes filled with tears of sorrow. May these wishes of a beggar woman be fulfilled through the blessings of the deities of the three roots. Perception, its object, and the perceiver all dissolve within the expanse, the blissful clarity of suchness. Ah. So finally we'll dedicate the merits that we have accumulated in this session, as well as all the merits of the three times that we have accumulated and the merits of the three times of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, so that all the wars that are happening around the world immediately come to an end. May there be no new war. May there be no famine. May there be no epidemic. May there be no financial crisis. May there be no disasters of the elements, natural catastrophes. And may peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us here at Tushita and online, and have a good night. And I would just like to mention our next activities. So Tushita will actually close its doors for summer. So in June and July will be closed. But in the meantime, we have quite some activities happening. The first one is actually on Thursday. Thursday is Buddha Purnima. In Tibetan, it is called Sakadawa Duchen, the festival that actually celebrates every year the birth, achieving awakening, and passing into Parinirvana of the Buddha Shakyamuni 2,500 years ago. So we will celebrate here at Tushita, and we'll meet here at 11 a.m. and we'll read a short sutra that is called the Sutra Remembering the Three Jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, remembering their qualities, as well as engage in the Buddha Shakyamuni Puja, to remember. It includes like all the deeds, the 12 deeds that the Buddha performed. So we'll remember the life of the Buddha and celebrate, his activities and so forth, and make offerings, to him. So this is at 11. Then it's actually a bank holiday normally here in Delhi. So normally people don't go to the office, to school, and all these things. I think anyway the schools are shut, right, with the the heat wave. So you're most welcome to join at 11 a.m. And if you're free also in the afternoon, actually right after we are done here, we'll go to the National Museum to join Geshe Dorji Damdul from Tibet House, the cultural center of the Dalai Lama. So at 1:30, there are actually Buddha relics that are kept there at the National Museum. So we'll go and pay homage with Geshe-la. Geshe is the, literally means virtuous friend, is the title that is given to scholars who have studied the Buddha's teachings for more than 20 years in the big monasteries. So it's the equivalent of a PhD, in Buddhist philosophy. So Geshe Dorji Damdul, actually, he used to be the interpreter, the English interpreter of the Dalai Lama, and now His Holiness Dalai Lama appointed him here at Tibet House, his cultural center here in Delhi. So we'll join him at 1:30 to pay a visit and pay homage to the relics of the Buddha Shakyamuni. And also at 6 p.m., Geshe-la is leading a ceremony at Tibet House, which is in Lodi Road, in case you have never been. So the ceremony of undertaking the aspiring bodhisattva vow or bodhisattva pledge. So this is a very beautiful practice. So if you're also free in the evening, most welcome to come to Tibet House. Then on Saturday, we'll meet here at 2 p.m. to recite the Golden Light Sutra, which is one of the practices that Lama Zopa Rinpoche really recommended us to engage in to alleviate the dangers of war in the world. So the Golden Light Sutra recitation for world peace, this will take place only in person here at Tushita, not online, because basically we are taking the text and dividing among the participants who are coming here. So yeah, I haven't thought yet how to do this online. Maybe after the summer break I'll think about it. And then what is next? On Monday at 6:30 p.m. we'll have a general introduction to the Buddha's teachings here. Monday 6:30 p.m. So for about 1 hour and a half, we'll explore, what the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha are all about. So for those of you who have not heard much about the teachings of the Buddha before, that might be interesting. But for people who have already studied, maybe you can skip that session. Still you might discover something interesting. And then on Tuesday, normally we should have a puja again at 6:30, or we might have a visiting teacher, but yeah, it's not confirmed yet, so I'm not going to mention now. And then that will be it in terms of activities at the center until the summer break. But every Monday to Friday at 9 a.m. we also have the online guided meditation. So this is happening until the end of the month. We are stopping 1st of June. So see you very soon. Thank you very much. Have a good night. Bye-bye.